Hello everybody, and welcome to this week's reflection, the first week in Lent for 2021, as it is sometimes known as an entering the desert. Anyway, a bit more of that anon. In less than a day's time, NASA are hoping to land the Perseverance rover on Mars. I find it incredible. The rover's job is to collect drill samples of Mars's core to ascertain whether there was or there can be the possibility of life on Mars. It's quite an incredible feat, and I have to say I am completely intrigued by this scientific endeavour. I also found out during my research during this week, I'm a bit slow on these things, but NASA's also going to the moon again in the Artemis program. So maybe I haven't missed my chance just yet. So if there's a NASA scout out there watching, I'm in. Put me on the list. Our gospel reading this week of the baptism of Jesus is a repetition of the gospel from a few weeks ago. And while human endeavour heads into space, this gospel invites the human being to endeavour to explore what, I quote, to tap into the deep spring that is within us. I've borrowed this phrase from Dr Miriam-Rose Ungunmerr-Baumann, who became Australia's Senior Citizen of the Year this year. It's known as Dadirri to her native people. Dadirri translates as the inner, deep listening and quiet of still awareness. As she remarks, we call on it and it calls on us. When we experience Dadirri, we are made whole again. In our Christian context, this return to wholeness is known as salvation. And there's a few bits and pieces attached which we might explore over the next 40 days and 40 nights together. But I'm going to invite us to explore this metaphorical or physical desert of our lives. As one of my commentators writes, it is only in the deepest silence within ourselves that God's word can be heard. The spirituality of the desert, which has existed for thousands of years, invites us into 5 stages: solitude, testing, self-emptying, encounter, and finally, transfiguration. The desert is the place of desolation and liberation. The desert is the place of death and life, the place of darkness and light, the place of thirst and the place of oasis. As I want to explore in this Lenten season, the desert is not just a place. The desert is also an experience. It becomes the place of truth about God and about ourselves. Some would say this is very, very scary and should not be entered into lightly. One of the desert fathers, Theophan the Recluse, writes, You seek the Lord? Seek, but only within yourself. God is not far from anyone. The Lord is near all those who truly call on God. Find a place in your heart and speak there with the Lord. It is the Lord's reception room. Everyone who meets the Lord meets God there. For God has no fixed other place for meeting souls. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we journey together over the next 5 weeks, I'm going to invite you to embrace Dadirri and the desert in our lives, in our homes, in our hearts. And so I encourage you to find a place to open your heart to God. I invite you to find a place to begin the deep inner listening of our being and of our world. I invite you to find a place to be honest and to wrestle with God and find God's peace. And I invite you to find a place to experience the living God who loves you and calls you.